The warm glow of the sun melted into the horizon, painting the vast ocean in hues of gold and pink. The gentle hum of the ship's engines and the faint clinking of glasses from the nearby bar mixed with the soothing sound of waves crashing against the sides of the cruise liner. A holiday cruise, a dreamy escape for two hearts who had unknowingly been searching for one another. Claire Thompson leaned against the railing of the ship, her soft blonde curls dancing in the breeze. Her emerald green sundress fluttered gently as she sipped on her glass of white wine, her eyes fixed on the endless expanse of the ocean. It was supposed to be a getaway, a way to distract herself from the monotony of work and a year of disappointments. She had told herself it would be a solo trip, a chance to rediscover herself without the interruptions of anyone else. But as the first evening of the cruise wrapped her in its warm, festive charm, she felt the faintest pang of loneliness. The laughter of couples around her was infectious, the sight of hands intertwined, cheeks pressed together for photos, and private smiles exchanged over shared drinks. She told herself she didn't need that. Not anymore, but fate often has its plans when one least expects it. Just a few feet away, James Carter adjusted his tie nervously. He wasn't usually the holiday cruise kind of man. His sister had booked him this trip for Christmas, insisting that he take a break. Get some sun, meet new people. For heaven's sake, James, you're 35 and acting like a retiree, she'd scolded. Now here he was, standing awkwardly in a sea of holiday cheer, still wearing the remnants of his work life, a crisp shirt and tie, because he hadn't quite figured out how to let go. The truth was, James had spent the last 2 years burying himself in work after a messy breakup. Love was a subject he had shoved into a corner of his mind, somewhere between too painful and not worth it. And yet, as his gaze wandered across the deck, he found himself captivated by a woman leaning on the railing. There was something unassuming about her, something quietly magnetic. The way she held her glass of wine as if she were trying to drink in the moment struck a chord with him. Her green dress seemed to catch every flicker of the sunset, making her glow like something out of a dream. Without quite knowing why, James felt his feet carrying him toward her. Claire heard footsteps approaching, but she didn't turn. The breeze teased her hair, and she was too lost in the moment to care. It wasn't until a deep yet tentative voice broke through her thoughts that she finally turned her head. "Beautiful evening, isn't it?" Her eyes met his. He had sharp features softened by the warm light of the setting sun. Light brown hair that looked like it had once been neatly combed, but now tousled slightly in the breeze, and hazel eyes that seemed to carry an unspoken depth. He was tall, his frame broad but not imposing, and his tie, well, it was a bit endearing. "It is," Claire said, her lips curving into a polite smile. She wasn't sure why, but something about his presence put her at ease. He wasn't overbearing or trying too hard like so many others she'd encountered on the ship. He simply seemed genuine. "Sorry to bother you," James said, scratching the back of his neck. I saw you standing here, and well, I figured I'd be kicking myself later if I didn't say hello." Claire chuckled softly, her fingers brushing a stray curl from her face. "Well, hello?" He laughed, a deep, warm sound that seemed to carry away any lingering awkwardness. "I'm James Carter." Claire Thompson," she said, extending her hand. His handshake was firm yet gentle, and as their hands touched, a flicker of something neither of them could name passed between them. As the evening wore on, they found themselves lingering by the railing long after most of the other passengers had moved to the bar or dining hall. Conversation flowed easily, surprising them both. They talked about everything and nothing. Her job as a graphic designer, his work as a financial analyst, their shared love for classic movies and the simple joy of a good cup of coffee. "I have to admit," James said, leaning slightly closer, "I wasn't exactly thrilled about coming on this cruise." "Let me guess," Claire said, raising an eyebrow. "Someone forced you into it?" "Guilty. My sister thought I needed a break." He paused, a small smile playing on his lips. "And maybe she was right." Claire tilted her head, her curiosity piqued. "Why? Workaholic?" "Something like that," he admitted, his tone light but his eyes flickering with something deeper. "And you? What brings you on this floating paradise?" "A breakup," she said bluntly, surprising even herself with her honesty. "It's been a year, but I don't know. I thought maybe it was time to do something just for me." James nodded, his expression softening. "Funny, I think I needed the same thing." There was a moment of silence, not uncomfortable, but charged with a quiet understanding. The kind of silence where words weren't necessary because somehow they both already knew. The days that followed felt like a blur of laughter and stolen moments. They played shuffleboard on the deck, laughing like children. They sipped cocktails by the pool, sharing stories about their families and dreams they'd tucked away. One evening, during a formal dinner, James asked her to dance, and as they swayed to the soft music, Claire felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, a spark of hope. By the time the ship docked at its first tropical island, they were inseparable. Together they explored white sandy beaches, swam in the crystal clear water, and even took a sunset kayak tour. James teased Claire about her obsession with taking the perfect photo, while she mocked his inability to relax without checking his phone at least once a day. And yet, beneath the teasing, there was a tenderness growing between them, a connection neither had expected, but both were beginning to cherish. On the final night of the cruise, under a sky bursting with stars, James led Claire back to the same spot where they'd first met. The ocean stretched out before them, endless and full of possibility. "I was going to wait until tomorrow," James said, his voice a little shaky, "but I figured there's no point in waiting for something you're sure about." Claire turned to him, her heart pounding. "What is it?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small charm bracelet. It wasn't extravagant, but it was beautiful. A simple silver chain with a tiny anchor charm dangling from it. "I saw this at the gift shop," he said, his cheeks flushing slightly. "It reminded me of you, strong, steady, and somehow the thing that's kept me grounded this whole trip." Claire blinked back the sudden sting of tears. "James?" "I know it's just a bracelet," he added quickly, "but I hope it's a reminder that this wasn't just a holiday fling for me. I want to see where this goes, Claire, if you'll let me." Her lips parted, but no words came out at first. Instead, she stepped closer, slipping her arms around his neck and pulling him into a kiss. It was soft, slow, and full of the unspoken promise that this was only the beginning. As the ship sailed through the night, carrying its passengers toward their next destination, Claire and James stood together, their hearts finally full. It had been a holiday neither of them had expected, but one they would remember for the rest of their lives.